Good evening again, everyone. It's nice to be back here. Yesterday we discussed a bit about project management, and we also talked about full stack development. So today we're going to be focusing on software testing, um, and hopefully we can start an introduction to product management, and from there it leads us to agile. But before I start talking about software testing, which we call quality assurance, do we have any questions from yesterday before we move on? Any questions from anyone? Okay, if there are no questions, I'll move on. But if you have any questions, let me know. If anything seems confusing, you can let me know, then I can explain. Okay, even if there are terms that you've heard before, it might not even be from this class, but as long as it relates to technology management or anything in technology, you can ask me. Okay, good. So we're going to be focusing on what is quality assurance, testing in software development lifecycle, what to expect from of a quality assurance person, type of testing, and bug reporting. Okay, so you understand what the role of the quality assurance person is within the team, understand a different type of testing, and understand how bugs are reported. Okay, so let's start. What is quality assurance? So when we say quality assurance, we're talking about a process, a systemic process used to determine when a product meets specification, right? So you know that when you're building a product, right? For example, you're trying to implement Salesforce, right? The business is going to give you specification in terms of they're going to give you requirements of what they want, right? As the Salesforce consultant, you're going to elicit requirement from the business. As a Salesforce business analyst, you want to understand what the business wants. All those requirements you're going to document, right? So what quality assurance is saying that this is a systemic process that will be used to determine if the product, the end product, if it meets those specifications that was gathered at the beginning, right? So that's what this talks about, right? Because the truth is that there is nothing more frustrating than you trying to use a software and that software does not work. It can be very frustrating, right? But so what quality assurance is helping to do is to prevent that negative experience, right? So the quality assurance person on your team is trying to prevent problems in those applications before you give it to your users to use it, right? So that they don't encounter bugs and crashes. So you don't want a situation where you finish developing something and you give it to the user and they're seeing bugs, they are seeing issues. Even sometimes as a team, you feel demoralized that, oh, we build this thing, but the user is just finding a lot of issues, right? So what this means is that on your team, on your Scrum team, you are going to have people that have skills, software testing skills. Sometimes you call them quality assurance engineer. Sometimes you call them quality assurance analyst. In some organization, they call them software engineer. In some organization, they call them software testers. So depending on the organization you work in, they can call them different names. Now, some organization is the business analyst, the sales of business analyst that will also come and do the quality assurance. But that doesn't happen in big organizations. You can find those kind of things maybe in smaller organizations where they are trying to manage resources, right? So you are going to be wearing multiple hats, right? So that you can solve problems as long as you're in the Scrum team. Because I will show you some of the things that happens in a Scrum team, right? There's something we call skill matrix. So you're going to put a skill matrix together. So in a Scrum team, everybody knows each other's skills. So some people, they will be the ones to gather the requirement, and when the product has been implemented, when this code has been implemented, they will also be the ones to test, right? But in most large organizations, you have a software tester, right? Which can also be called a software engineer or a quality assurance analyst or a quality assurance engineer. They are all the same, okay? And I already said that the role of the quality assurance person is to prevent problems in an application, right? And their primary goal should be to help the team move quickly with confidence. That word confidence matters, right? So anytime a code has been developed and it has been tested, the application has been tested, right? The team is more confident, right? For the application to be sent to the user to test. So when the user is testing, that is called user acceptance testing, right? So, but the team is more confident because they've already tested on their end and they're good before passing it to the user to do a user acceptance testing. So anybody that hear quality assurance testing and all that, they are part of the technical team, but the user acceptance is on the business side, okay? How do we ensure quality? So the way a quality assurance or the team ensures that there is quality is that they always ensure that there is a clear specification. So when they say something like clear specification, it just means that there are clear requirements. That means the requirements are very clear of what the business wants, right? Code implemented. So they ensure that the code is also implemented right, the code is tested, and the code is released. So during all those phases, they are making sure that the application is delivering what is intended to do, right? So before users start using the application, they make sure that this is what the application is meant to do, and the application is doing it, right? So every quality software product has a team behind it that is responsible for its success. And those are the people we call the quality assurance team, okay? And the quality assurance team in a Scrum world, they are part of the Scrum team. So they won't call them quality assurance person on the team, but they'll call them people with quality assurance skills in the Scrum team, okay? So in a software development life cycle, this is what a software development life cycle looks like, right? We have the planning phase. A typical software development life cycle, even if you are doing agile or you are doing traditional waterfall, this is what the software development life cycle looks like. So you have a planning phase. At that planning phase, right, what we are saying is that software developers, they don't okay, over time, right? What happened is that those people that want to do testing, the software tester, the quality assurance guys, they always come in when the code is, after you finish building the code, or when you are building the code, they will start writing their test scripts for testing, right? But over time, the team has realized that they need the tester to be part of the team, right? They need to start getting involved from the beginning, right? That because over time they realize that that is what works, right? But in a Scrum team, it's easy because everyone in the Scrum team is always involved from the beginning. But in the traditional waterfall style, before they always get involved towards the build phase, right? But over time now, they realize that the software tester needs to also be part from the beginning, from the planning phase, right? So in the planning phase, what is the quality assurance person doing in the planning phase, right? In the planning phase, what they are going to be doing is they are identifying risk, right? What are the risks? What are the mitigations? What are the use cases, right? So for all those requirements, for all those features that the business wants, their role is to start identifying use cases, different scenarios that can come up, right? That's the job of the quality assurance person, right? During define state, you are defining all the requirement that you want to build, right? You're defining the requirement, the features, all those things. Remember when I talk about writing all the user stories, things like that, right? So as you're writing the user stories, you're also going to write acceptance criteria. The quality assurance person will also support in writing those acceptance criteria. So you know what acceptance criteria mean, right? Acceptance criteria is, for example, you write a story to say that, okay, I want to be able to log in with my user name and password, right? So that I can access the website. So that's like a user story, like a requirement. So a user story is also a requirement, right? Acceptance criteria will be, maybe there should be a field, right, where I can put my username. There should be another field where I can put my password. After writing my username and password, it will take me to so page. So all those things you are listing down is what will be used as the acceptance criteria to accept that page, right? That login page, right? So that's just a sample, right? So the quality assurance person is also part, of the team writing these acceptance criteria. So as they are writing these acceptance criteria, they are defining their own test scenarios, what they are going to use to test when it's time for testing, right? So now you can see that as the product owner or as the Salesforce consultant or as the Salesforce business analyst, as you are gathering requirements, eliciting all the requirements from the business and writing the acceptance criteria, the quality assurance person is also working with you to write, as you're doing that, they are helping you with acceptance criteria, and they are also helping you with test strategies and scenarios. In a situation where there is no quality assurance, do you understand that you'll be the one to put all this in place, right? To ensure that when this is finally completed, you are going to be the one to test. After the defined phase is done, in the design, you know what the design phase is? I told you yesterday, the UX UI designs, putting all those designs in place, right? Or if you're using Salesforce, maybe you know how to use App Builder, right? You're putting all those things in place. The quality assurance person will be finalizing their test scenarios. I will show you an example of the test scenarios shortly. They'll be finalizing their test scenarios. They'll be getting feedback, right, from the team. They will also be putting together what their manual test scenario is. I will explain the difference between manual testing and automated testing, right? They are putting all those things together. What will be, which one are we going to manually test? Which one are we going to do automated testing for, right? So during the design phase, they will put all that together. After that, during the build phase, they are still doing the same thing. But in the build phase, the team is already building. They are already putting the code into place, right? So they're already building the application, right? So when the developers finish building the application, then they will pass it to the quality assurance team to do testing. So, they've been involved from planning, but they were just putting things in place. It's when it now gets to testing, they will actually now do the testing. They will not actually complete that manual and automation testing, right? The quality assurance will also work with the business for the acceptance testing, right? So they will do all that, right? Because the acceptance testing is normally from the business side, right? So if, for example, if you're a Salesforce consultant, remember you're the one representing the business on the technical team, right? So most of the time you'll be the one to write the acceptance criteria, or you are going to meet with the business to write the acceptance criteria. So after the testing is done, they will deploy. And the quality assurance will also help to validate the functionality in production. That scenario, we call it production in view. So when you get to most organizations, if you're working in an application development team, you hear things like PIV. Can we do the PIV now? Has it been pushed to production, right? Can we do the PIV now, right? So when you hear things like that, what they are saying is that, the application is now in production, but we have to do PIV before we allow users to start using it. So that's what they call production in view, right? And the testers, they do their testing in what we call something like IST, testing environment. So when you get to some organization here, it's in the testing environment, then you know that it's in the quality assurance phase, right? So IST is called integrated, I can't remember the S, integrated something testing, right? So in that environment, when you're something like test environment, you know that it's in the quality assurance phase. When here is in dev environment, it means it's in the build phase. They are building. That's dev environment, right? So the quality assurance work all through, but they are majorly focused is for the test environment, right? And they support the business to also validate in production. Okay, so this is what happens when you're developing an application. And you can see that the quality assurance is not just focusing on doing the testing, they are also they also start working from the planning phase. Okay. Any questions before we move on? You can also send it by chats. Okay, I'll move on. So what do we expect of a quality assurance person? So if you are working as a quality assurance engineer or quality assurance analyst, what are the things we expect from you, right? Either you are on a Scrum team or you are working in a waterfall environment, right? We expect you to deliver what we call a test strategy, right? I'll show you what a test strategy looks like now, right? We want you to deliver what we call a test strategy. So a test strategy is what? What is a strategy? A strategy is just how do you want to go about it, right? What are the things you want us to know that you'll be focusing on, right? Then we also want you to have a test plan, right? We also want you to have what we call acceptance criteria, right? So I'm going to go to my conference page to show you what an example of a test strategy, a test plan, and an acceptance criteria. Okay? So, okay, same. Can you see my board?
It was showing, but it's no longer showing.
Okay, let me share again. You can see, right?
Yes, it's showing now.
Okay, good. So this is what a test strategy looks like, right? This is the sample of the test strategy, right? So if you work in an organization where you have a quality assurance person, you're not the one doing this. It's the quality assurance person that is doing this, right? But you need to be aware because they are going to ask you questions, right? You're going to be working with the software tester, the quality assurance person. So this is what the test strategy looks like. So a high-level summary of the project. So let's say, for example, we want to implement Salesforce marketing instance, right? We'll talk about, we're implementing a Salesforce marketing instance for the marketing team and the Salesforce team. So you write it, right? So the strategy outlines what quality provides to the project, what type of testing is done, and how the testing is going to be carried out, right? You can also put relevant different references like link you're using on your project, right? So you can see some of the example of the reference. They said the application built is using Node.js. Remember, Node.js is a programming language, right? So you write all those references, any reference you want to add that you think is relevant, then you put what you're going to be delivering, right? What artifact quality assurance will provide to the team. You're going to provide test strategies and test plans, right? So what resources are used to carry out the testing? What are you going to use to carry out the testing? You can say Jenkins, right? So for example, if you're going to be doing automated testing, right? You write out all the things that you use to do the automated testing, right? what is the scope of the testing? So when they say scope of testing, is it going to include both manual and automated testing? Right? Is he just going to focus on what browser? Maybe it's going to focus on Google browser and Internet Explorer, or is it just going to focus on Mac users, or is it going to focus on Windows users? So they want all that to be explicit, right? So you're going to put all those details in your test strategy. So as I said to you, it's not hard, right? Test strategy is just how do you want to go about your testing? That's what they're asking you. Right? So you put all those details together and you review it with the team, right? To say, okay, this is our test strategy, and they can also add comment, they can remove comment, depending on what everybody feels at that point in time. Then you can all agree. And yes, you finalize your test strategy. Now, that's your test strategy. You are also going to deliver your, what we call your test plan, right? Now, for your test plan, right? Each of the features should have an associated test plan. Remember, when you're listing your requirements, every requirement that is being listed that the user wants, right, is like a picture. Like when you put, I'm trying to, when you put a picture together, that's not a user story. A user story is part. Okay, let me put it this way. I don't know if you guys know what Epic is. If you don't know, I'll show you later. An epic is a combination of different stories. I know you guys know what a user story is, right? Now, if you put user stories together, it becomes an epic, a large epic. Now, you can have different epic that you can put together that can give you a feature, right? So they're saying that each requirement, each feature that the business wants you to implement, right? That each of them must have a test plan, okay? So a test plan should have what we call the happy parts, sad parts, or edge case scenarios, right? And a test plan has 4 main parts: scenarios, expected results, latest results, and automated. I'm going to explain all this, right? Now, I said a test plan should have a happy part, sad part, and edge case scenario. So for example, I'll take one of the things that the user wants here. So if the user wants what we call, so this, what I'm showing you here is what we call conference, right? I'm just going to show you that while we're doing, when we start doing our simulation, right? So this is one of the features we're delivering to the user, right? A login page. Let's say you are developing an application, right? A Salesforce marketing instance, right? And you're now designing. So for that instance you're developing, you're creating a login page and all those things, let's say. So login page is one of the things you want to create. So we created a scenario. So what is the scenario that we have here? Click a button to log in as a new user, right? So let's say click a button to log in as a new user is one scenario, right? What are the expected results? We said the expected result should be 2 fields should appear to write email and password, right? When you want to log in into a page, that place that says username, or let's say email, you have a box like this. That box is what we're calling field, right? You guys are in Salesforce, so you know what a field is, right? Then password should also have another field, right? So we are saying this should be the expected result, right? Now, another, so this is it. So let's say this one is another feature, contacts page, right? You're saying click on contact us button. What will happen if you click on contact us button on the contact page? Should open up an email for the user, right? It should open up an email for the user. So if I go to the contact page, which is a feature that the user wants, if I click on the contact us button, it should open up an email so that I can type, right, and send to maybe the organization, something like that, right? Now, this first scenario here, and this is the expected result. This part is not going to be here. This part is not going to happen now, right? Then this part is where say, is this going to be automated? So what they're asking there is that for the test, are we going to automate the testing, or we're going to test it manually? So if we say we are going to test it manually, so this will be a no, right? If we say we want to do the testing, want to automate the testing, this is going to be yes. So what do we mean by automating the testing? It just means that we are going to write scripts to automate the testing. That's what it just means, right? But manual testing means that we are actually going to manually test it. We're going to try and put an email and a password to see if it works, right? So all this has been done during you started planning it from the planning phase, from the define phase and design, right? But when you now get to the testing phase, after the developers have finished building, then this is when you now have your latest result. Now they finish building, you will now click on the login page and try to put your email and password. If you put your email and password and you are successful, you can put it here that you pass, right? If you click on the contact button and it doesn't open an email for you, then we'll say this is a fail, right? So this is what the test plan just looks like. It looks like this. And it's saying that, remember the scenario we created now is just happy parts. You also create a sad part, like you create different scenarios. This login page can have up to 10 scenarios of what can happen, right, in the login page, right? So it can also be, when you write email, if the email doesn't have maybe .com.car, it should not allow it. You want it to be validated. All those are different scenarios that can be created, okay? So, but this is just what a sample of a test plan looks like. So we said that as the quality assurance, we deliver what we call a test strategy. It will deliver what we call a test plan, right? And the last part is it will deliver what we call acceptance criteria, right? So what is an acceptance criteria, right? So an example of acceptance criteria is let me just show you here. One second, hold on. I don't think that project has okay, these guys didn't put their acceptance criteria. Let's see another one. 1 second. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so can you guys see my screen, right? So this is a user story, right? Contact, right? So you can see the description here. As an Olympics client, I want to see contact page so that I can find out how to reach Olympic support team for assistance, right? So you can see the acceptance criteria. On the landing page, there should be a need for our support button. When I click on need our support button, it should direct me to another page, get in touch page. On the get in touch page, I should see 3 rectangular boxes arranged horizontally. Box, let me open it. So in the first one, I should have an email icon, right? So I'll just stop there. I don't know. So in the first one, I should have an email icon, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that this is what, so when this part is done, when they finish building this part, this is what they will use to check, to accept this. So that's what we call the acceptance criteria. So for this story, this contact page story that they put together, after it's done, the building of this is done. This is what they will use to do the acceptance criteria. Okay? So that's an example of an acceptance criteria. There's also an example here that says, given precondition or beginning of system, when you put the input or action scenario, then describe the expected outcome and additional outcome, right? So in this format, if you use this format for your acceptance criteria, if this is what they are using in your organization, what this just means is that they are going to automate the testing. So when you see things like this, just know that the testing will be automated. You get what I'm saying? So if the format of the acceptance criteria is like this, just know that this will be a automated testing. But if you see it in that other format that I showed you just now, just know that this might be a manual testing. So you can see the different way that you can write your acceptance criteria, right? And the acceptance criteria is just a condition that a software product must satisfy to be accepted by the stakeholder. So, for example, if you are the Salesforce consultant acting as the product owner on the project, for you to accept that this thing is done, for the business to take it from you, the acceptance criteria must be satisfied, okay? So that's the acceptance criteria. So now we've explained test strategy, we've explained test plan, and we showed you a sample of a test plan and acceptance criteria. So all the things we just explained now, these are what should be delivered by a quality assurance person or a software tester on your team or someone that has that skill on your team. And sometimes you can be wearing multiple hats as a business analyst on that team. Okay? Any questions before we move on? No questions? You good?
So I have Ose. Ose has his hand raised.
Okay, Ose, you can go ahead, sorry.
Let me just let me.
Oh, do you have to unmute her?
Yes, Ose, you have been unmuted, please.
Okay, thank you so much. I just have a question because when you were talking about like sorry, the part where you said, like if it's going to be automated, then you indicate that it's going to be automated. My question is, what if you're creating a bot? Can you have it that is both automated and also both manual? Like if you're creating a bot and the bot is doing some automation, is that considered part of you saying it's automated, or it is
you are creating a bot?
Like, okay, when I mean bot, like you're creating something that will like do the review for you.
Yes. So you use a script. So what we call it is you're using a script. So instead of you to do manual testing, like when the application is finished, when they finish building the application, that you go there and put login, email, password. No, you won't do that. You will write a script that will automatically do that for you and check if the application is working as expected. So we'll say, oh, let's write a script to do the UI automation testing instead of you doing a manual testing. So UI automation testing, when I mean that, is user interface testing. So the way you go to your Amazon.car, that's the user interface. That's what the user can see, right? So instead of you manually testing it, you can put a script together to do that for you. Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and that script, I'm guessing, is one of the languages you said that they use, or maybe it's different. That's going to be one of the languages that you said that, like the HTML, CSS, and there was the last one that you said is used for the front end, JavaScript.
JavaScript, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they can write a JavaScript, something like that, to do that. Okay? Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ida B.
Hi, Florence. Thank you. I was wondering in like the more planning stage, not the testing, then is it the BA that does the user story itself, and then the QA will do the acceptance criteria? Is it usually split up, or?
So the BA is doing the user stories, right? The quality assurance person is not doing the acceptance criteria. The business normally does the acceptance criteria, which most time the business will just tell you is the BA that will put it together, or the Salesforce consultant, or the Salesforce business analyst, right? You are the one putting it together. The quality assurance person will also be there, because they are making sure that, okay, they are looking at all the acceptance criteria, they're making sure everything is good. If they're going to be automated, so they need to talk to developers, or if the quality assurance person can run the script, they will start preparing the script as well, right? So they are part, but it's not their responsibility to put the acceptance criteria together.
Oh, okay. So as a consultant, if it's in a company where they don't have a BA, then we would be responsible for that?
So you'll be responsible for testing. So you put the test plan together. And when it's time for testing, when they finish building, then you test.
Okay. So we would potentially do both then. We would do the user story and test it.
Testing, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mohammed, hand is raised.
Okay, good evening. Just a clarification that okay, for High, that I enrolled to be a Salesforce consultant.
Okay.
And in the sprint tree, I can see every other thing, and I think I was more. I think I'm interested in the Scrum and project management, because it kind of relate to it what I was before, which was an architect and a project architect. So, but the thing there is, in this whole atmosphere now, I'm trying to understand that, when I submit my resume, for example, with the Salesforce consultant service and sales, and also, yes, I go ahead to write the exams you're going to tell us about, what you're teaching us now. How will I actually be utilized in the whole thing, in the whole process?
So if you put yourself in as a Salesforce consultant, right? So the resume would determine the job description would determine a lot, right? If you're looking for a Salesforce consultant to help them with implementation, right, you will act more like a delivery person that understands Salesforce, right, that can help them in delivering the project. But if they're looking for a Salesforce consultant in such a way that they don't understand, but they want Salesforce, you're going to do a lot of business analysis work. Like, when they talk about you facilitating sessions, gathering requirement, eliciting requirement, trying to understand the need of the business, articulating that need, and recommending solutions, right? In that role, you'll be doing a lot of getting all these requirements and trying to understand it. But if the organization already know what they want, they just want someone to come and manage that delivery, but someone that has a Salesforce experience, then you're going to just manage the process. When we get to start Scrum now, I'll show you what the Scrum Master does on the team. The Scrum Master focuses on just process. Like, this is the process of making sure we deliver this work, right? The Scrum Master might not really need to know Salesforce, right? But if you are a project manager, you might need to know Salesforce, right? Because you need to understand what you're actually delivering, right? But it's still okay if you are not really technical, right? But if you're going to be working as a consultant, a business analyst, you need to understand, because you're going to be discussing with the business. The business are telling you they want this. As a consultant, you need to be able to put it on App Builder and show the business that, is this what you're talking about? Are you trying to say you want something this way? And it's based on your understanding, you are also able to tell the business, oh, I don't think that is possible in Salesforce. Oh, I know what you're talking about. I think that we can do that. That can be done in Salesforce, right? It's those knowledge you're going to bring on board. So your project management that you're learning now is to help you in executing that project, because a consultant is more like you're combining BA and delivery. right? I hope that that is giving you a perspective.
Yes. I think I think I was being glued to our own construction where I am an architect. I'm just basically on architecture. So okay, so that means in the tech space now, it's a little bit more of it's a little bit elaborated into.
Yes.
Okay, yes, I understand.
And
yes,
it's a collaborative.
Oh, sorry, before we go again. Now, okay, yes, I have the platform builder, I have the service. I'm sure looking out to write the sales and hopefully write these ones. Would it now mean that I also have to write the BA class, the BA exam, because the BA was actually clashing with the service, and because we're told to just focus on what we came, so that I didn't get to attend BA classes. So
you don't have to.
Will it be that I must also write the BA exam?
No, you don't have to, but you need to understand some of the techniques of a business analyst for you to perform very well as a consultant.
So right? That means I have to, at my own time, go and watch the BA classes and assimilate them.
Exactly. Or read a book on BA like Babok. You need to know, I want to get information out of these people. How can I get the information out? Am I going to facilitate a session? Do I need to put a workshop together? Or do I just want to put a survey together and get my data? So you need to understand all those techniques. Okay? You don't have to write the exam. Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Okay. So we're done with what we expect from our quality assurance person. Now I want to teach you the type of testings that we type of quality assurance testing that we have. Okay. So we have majorly 3 types, but we have other ones. Don't let me say major. So I'll just say we have different type of quality assurance testing. We have what we call the black box testing, the gray box, and the white box. And we have some other form of testing like performance testing, smoke testing, security testing. Okay. Now, black box testing is when you are examining the box from outside. Imagine it's black, so I can't see what is inside, right? So just imagine a box that is concealed, that you can't see what is inside the box. So you are just focusing on what is outside the box, what you can see. So you are focusing on the user interface, right? So when you're dealing with black box, you're focusing on the user interface. So let me remind you of what a user interface is. Your Amazon.com, that is a user interface. You can see, right? LinkedIn.com, that's a user interface. You can see. So anything the client can see is what we call user interface, okay? So just look at the user interacting with something. That's the user interface. So when you hear UI, that's what it means. Okay. So when you're doing a black box testing, it means that you're just focusing on that user interface. Now, for you to focus on that user interface, you can only do 2 types of testing. That's the most common one. That's the one you will see all the time. Manual and UI automation testing, right? Now, what will they help you to uncover? They will help you to uncover issues that has to do with the functionality of the application or the usability of the application, right? And the people responsible for this is the quality assurance engineer, which you also call the quality assurance analyst, which some organization will call software tester, right? These are the people responsible to do those manual and UI automation. And I said, if you work in a small organization or in an organization where you have to wear multiple hats, you can be a business analyst and also now be the one that will do this manual and UI testing. Now, I said manual testing is where you just write the details and you manually do the testing, right? I go to my Amazon.com. I try my email password. Does it work? Pass. It doesn't work. Fail. I put my card detail. Did he accept it? Yes. It doesn't accept it. Fail. Right? You do them manually. Or you are going to write a script, right, to do the UI automation testing. So the script will run and it tell you the one that passed and the one that fails. Right? Now, sometimes the quality assurance engineer might not be able to write the script. A developer can help you write that script, right? And you can now do the testing by running it. Okay? So that's black box. Gray box, interaction between the inside and the outside, right? So at this point in time, you are seeing a bit, right? something is a bit transparent. So you are trying to check, right? Something that connects, something that triggers actions on the UI. If I click on a red shoe, I'm triggering something on the UI to take me to the back end. Remember when we talked about full stack development yesterday, right? I'm doing something. So at that point in time, the kind of testing you are doing there is what we call integration testing. You are going to hear that a lot, right? So what you are trying to do is you are examining the components of the application if they work together, right? So if I click on red shoe, it will trigger to go get me a response, right? So that integration testing, front end, that client side, user interface, going to the back end, using application programming interface, right? You are not testing that integration if it works. So when the gray box testing is more like integration, so you can see a bit of the outside, which what the user can see, and the part that the user cannot see, right? So that's why we call it integration testing. It's the responsibility of the quality assurance person and the developer to do this, right? Because at this point in time, it will be done through coding, like through scripts, right? So the quality assurance, depending on how knowledgeable about scripting, right? Or sometimes the developers will help them to write the script, but it is their responsibility to do this testing. The white box testing, that one is examining inside the box. So in this scenario, you hear things like system testing, unit testing. So when you get to organization, they tell you, oh, we're currently still doing the system testing. You know that they are doing it inside the box. They are doing it on a code level, right? They are testing specific functionality to verify. And this testing is done by developers. So no, just that, in Scrum team, people will be giving updates. So when you hear, oh, we're doing system testing, you just need to understand that they are doing this at the code level, right? Unit testing, system testing, right? And it's the responsibility of the developers to do that, okay? So those are the different kind of testing that you can have. Now, the other ones that you can have is what we call performance testing. As the name sounds, you are testing the performance of that application. How will this application perform under load? You understand? So let me give you an example. You know when, have you guys been to the mall during Black Friday? You see how a lot of people will be in the mall. There'll be, you won't get a chance to even move properly, right? So imagine a website on a Black Friday. You have multiple people, right? So, and what people do is before that Black Friday, when they release an application, they will do what we call performance testing. That under load, how will this application perform? How fast will this application be? So they will do what we call performance testing. And that performance testing is divided into 3. We have what we call the load testing. So if 500 people is on this application right now, how will the application perform? What is the maximum operating capacity for that application? So at that point in time, you are testing the load. So it's a type of performance testing. You hear things like stress testing, right? They want to know under extreme workload, how will this application perform, right? Why they are doing it, that they want to be able to scale that application. Like they want to test for scalability so that they can identify the breaking points that after 1,000, this application will break. It can't take more people after 1,000, right? So they want to be able to do that, right? And the last one is endurance testing. So most of the time, the performance testing that most organizations do is what we call load testing. Okay, so that's the one that is common. Another one is security testing. That one, you perform it to review flaws and vulnerability. Remember when I said that there are some shared resources. So you don't have to have a security person on your team, right? But you can also call them to help you check to check if your application is secure. They want to check. Most of the time, all these things are automated. When we run it, you hear things like, oh, I'm running Aquascan. You hear things like that. I'm running a check marks. All these are security testing applications. So they are testing for the flaws in the application. They are testing for the vulnerabilities in the application, right? Because if they don't do that, if there is an attack on the system, it can cause a denial of service, right? So people can try to, attack that application, right? Which means that the website will be down, or which means that they were going to lose revenue, or sometimes the data of the customers can leak, which will cause a damage to reputations, right? So every application wants to ensure that they are doing security testing so that there is no denial of service attack. The denial of service is when hackers, they try to take down your application server, right? So it will now not be available, right? So the people can't access your application, right? So they want to make sure that your application is secure. So when you hear your developer saying, no, I'm currently running check marks, I'm currently running Aquascan, just know that they are doing security testing and they're checking out for vulnerabilities and they're trying to fix those vulnerabilities. You also hear things like smoke testing, right? They just want to determine the application that they are deploying, is it stable or is not stable, right? You hear things like regression testing. Regression testing is maybe you build an application, it's already in production, right? You keep adding more to it, you keep building more and moving it to production. So as you are releasing to production, they will be doing regression testing that the new thing you are adding, is it affecting what was there before? The new part you are adding, is it affecting what was there before? Right? So that's like regression testing. So these are the most common type of testing you're going to, as you work within application or you manage people, manage a team that is developing an application. These are the kind of testing you are going. And so if you say you're a project manager and you want to manage a Salesforce implementation, you're writing your project plan. You need to consider all this type of testing. You're going to ask, okay, we're going to be doing the quality assurance testing. We're going to be doing integration testing. Are we doing performance testing? What kind of performance testing are we doing? Are we doing load testing? Okay, we're going to, you need to have those discussions with the team, right? So you need to be aware of the kind of testing that are available as well. Okay? Abigail.
Thank you, Florence. It's amazing how you are making technical terms look so easy. Hopefully it's easy in real life. When you were running us through the gray box testing, you specifically told us that trigger action are required, to see how the outside environment, interacts with the inside. On the black box testing, can you confirm? Are you saying there's no trigger action required? Are we just looking at saying looking at the user interface? Is it the look and feel that we are looking at, or we might need to take one or two actions on that? Then secondly, for the load performance testing, how is this done? How does the load come in? Do you get actual players to actually put that load, or do you use things like simulation? How do you get that Black Friday kind of pressure on the system to see if it will stand the pressure? Thank you.
Great, Abigail. So let's start from the black box, right? So the goal of the black box is just to test usability, functionality. That's the focus of the black box, right? It's not thinking about triggering anything in the back end or anything like that. So it's more like how usable it is in terms of look and feel that you said, right? In terms of okay, I need to log in. I need to put gmail.com, right? And maybe you now put gmail.co. It should not accept it, right? Things like that. So is it functional? Is validating all those things, easy things like that, right? But the trigger action is more like integration. So you're now integrating what we can see with what you have at the back end. You want to get information from the back end. Now you're not triggering. You have left the presentation layer, right? You're now going. You want to get to the database, the server level. So you are triggering something, integration, right, between that client and the backend, right? Then you also talk about load testing. For the load testing, you said the answer already as you were saying it, right? You said, how can we get that Black Friday? So they will do something like simulation. So they will run as if they have 500 people actually trying to get on the application. So they will run a simulation. So it's not like they will get actual people, because at the end of the day, how many people can you really get, right? So that's what they do.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Ose.
Thank you so much. So the load testing is the same thing as another name you gave it. I don't think I said.
Oh, I said performance testing, right? And I said that under performance testing, you can have different kind of performance. Either you are doing a load testing performance, or you are doing a stress testing performance, or you are doing endurance testing.
Okay, so and the load testing is like when you're trying to test, like, I guess, if you have, like you give example of the Black Friday sale, but then the stress test will be
the more like extreme.
Okay.
Like you want
more than the load.
Yes, at this point in time, we might need to like the breaking points.
Breaking points, okay. And so you can probably do a combination of the tests, I'm guessing, right? Where you have, okay.
You can.
And this is something we determine at the very beginning of
the planning. Yes. You determine that you're going to do this so that they can start planning on writing the scripts to do the tests.
I'm guessing, like in the case where you said that we'll have to indicate if it's going to be automation that will run a script or something like that, then like if it's automation, it will not be, okay, never mind, I've answered my question. I was going to say automation can never be a black box testing, but I realized that it actually can as well.
Yes, yes.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, I can see in the chat from Shadi, can you explain penetration testing? Penetration testing is security now. Pen test. Okay, let me explain. So for people that work in security, right? So penetration testing is actually like another role there. They do a lot, they do what is called pen testing. So I'll give you like a scenario just to make it easy, right? So pen testing is, so for example, look at me as a consultant. So maybe I help with organizations to do pen testing. So I want to see if you are having attack, or if there are loopholes, don't let me say it, if there are loopholes where people can attack your organization, your applications, your systems, your servers, right? So you can call me as a consultant. I'll come in, then you tell me that you want me to do a pen testing. You might not even give me access to all your application. You might just say, test my servers, or test this area, or test this area, right? So I will sign document that I'm going to be doing a penetration testing on your application. So I'm going to do that pen test, and I'll give you the reports to say that this is loopholes within your system where you can get an attack, so that you as an organization can now secure those places so that you don't get attacked from hackers. Okay, is that clear, Shade?
Yes, very much so. Thank you. So, but the second part to my question was, how often do organizations do this? Is it like once a quarter, or annually? How often should an organization carry out pen testing on their?
Really, I don't know that answer, but I know different organizations. Some will do it yearly, some will do it. I know most organizations, especially big organizations, they will do it yearly. But smaller, I really don't know how small I don't even know if some people do it, to be candid, right? But for big organizations that cares about reputations, like our banks and all that, they do it yearly. And when that report comes out, you see now what they call remediation projects. Projects will come up and they will start fixing all those loopholes, right? But I know they carry it out once yearly. They carry out also what we call disaster recovery. Do we call it disaster recovery? Yeah, disaster recovery. So in that scenario, what they do is, let's say, for example, you are using Rogers. I'm just making it easy. You are using Rogers. You now have another backup in your house, Bell. But you don't use Bell. You just have it, right? But you use Rogers every day. Then one day you now say, okay, let me try my Bell in case my Rogers fail. So you now switch off Rogers and put on your Bell. If everything works fine, you say, okay, my backup plan is in place, everything is fine. So when there's a disaster on Rogers, I know that my bell is working. So organization will do that like twice a year. They call it disaster recovery, right? Then the penetration testing, I know they do that once a year, because when you do it, projects will come up and people will start remediating those loopholes.
Thank you so much, Forrest.
Okay, good. So smoke testing is when you determine what the software you deployed, is it stable or is not stable? You know, you can deploy an application into production, but it's not stable, right? People can't really use the functionalities, right? So it's like a confidence test. How confident are you that this application in production is good and is working well, right? So that's smoke testing for you. Some do it yearly. Yes, Tony. So that's one I know too, yearly. But you know, small organization, I don't know if they do it yearly or every 2 years. So I guess it depends because it costs money as well. You have to put it in your budget. Is it redundancy? What do you mean, is it redundancy? S, do you want to ask a question? Or are you good? What do you mean by is it redundancy? Okay, I guess we'll move on. Okay. So the last part we're going to talk about in quality assurance is bug reporting. You know, when I was explaining Rogers and Bell, yes. So I'm trying to say, your redundant network, right? That's what you use to test your disaster recovery. They also call it one other name. I'm trying to remember, but I can't remember now. Okay, yes, I'm good. I was trying to explain the Rogers and Bell scenario. Okay, good. So bug reporting is the last part, right? So you know that bugs are inevitable. So they will always occur. So there's nothing like, we've tested, nothing is going to happen. It's just normal, right? So it's an unexpected behavior. It will always happen, right? But one thing is that you need to understand that there will always be low and high impact bugs. So there are some bugs that they call them high impact. They call them, so when you hear things like no-go decision or showstoppers, you see some bugs, they say, oh, these are showstoppers. It means that we cannot release that application into production. They are showstoppers. You are building a Salesforce instance, right? And maybe in a field where they say you should have prospect, the prospect field is not working, and that is a mandatory field. So they will call it a showstopper. You can't release that application into production. So we call it a bug, right? So now once the bug is identified, when you're doing testing, you need to report that bug, right? So when the bug is reported, it depends on the organization you are working in. If they're using Jira, they can be using Rally, GitHub, or Bugzilla. But for most organizations, they will use what we call a